On May 23rd, the 8th and final Mission Impossible film will be released.
One last time.
You serious?
I need you to trust me.
Until it makes a lot of money, and then they decide they want to make more movies, and they make like a spin-off movie called Mission Impossible, where his only mission is to like microwave a can of SpaghettiOs and then he still dies as the plot twist. But until then, I'll be reviewing all of the Mission Impossible films and then eventually doing a ranking. And in this video, we're looking at the very original from 1996. This video contains spoilers. Before I hop into the review, keep in mind this is all just my opinion. Share what you think about the movie in the comment section down below. And as a point of reference, I've actually not seen any of the Mission Impossible films until this point. So this is my review for the first time viewing it. So after the totally radical intro we get at the very beginning of the film, this pretty much dives straight into this mission. And I was very happy with the fact that the movie actually opened with a mission, because who knows, some movies like this are sometimes scams. But what I really like is how it's not afraid to get dark pretty fast. You have these different agents getting murdered, and then our main character, played by Tom Cruise, is framed. And so he has to go on another mission. I mean, this movie really lived up to its name. Now, I will say at some point, kind of in the middle of the movie, it does feel like it's getting a little bit more slow-paced. But most of the time throughout the movie, it's pretty good at having plenty of action, while still having the moments you need for character development. Although I will say this is a movie that would kind of work well as a TV series, because it's these different action sequences, it does feel a little bit episodic at times. Which, if you don't know, this movie is actually based off of a 1966 TV series called Mission Impossible, where the characters were different but they were still agents of the IMF. Pretty much any movie that you think is good because it's an original movie is probably still based off of a TV show or a book. But anyways, regardless, this movie is pretty interesting, as you have our main character breaking into the CIA headquarters to retrieve a disc, and then you also have a train sequence at the end. And just throughout all of this, the sequences are exciting, they're done very well, they're pretty iconic. And I just think the pacing for the individual sequences are done very well, where you can just feel the tension. But the main thing to note about this movie is there's plot twists like in pretty much every scene. The only thing that's predictable is that something unpredictable will happen.
I was not expecting that. But I was expecting not to expect something, so it doesn't count.
And so it kind of gets to a point where you really just don't even trust anything about the movie, because all throughout the movie it's like, oh, this character died, nope, they actually survived. Oh, this character was a good guy, nope, they are actually not. So of course you have Tom Cruise, who did a great performance in here as the lead character, Ethan Hunt. And for some reason in this movie, he looks like a mixture of Bruce Banner from the Incredible Hulk movie and Indiana Jones from his prime. But aside from that random thing I just said, as a character here, he's definitely very interesting, because you can tell he's that young kind of agent guy who does like to have fun when he can, but he also has some very emotional moments at times. And you have other IMF agents in here, like the leader, played by Jon Voight, who turns out to be the antagonist. And then of course Tom Cruise's character also works with a character known as Luther, who's definitely pretty interesting as well. And there's other side characters in here that are pretty memorable, but everyone does have some pretty basic names, so it's hard to remember their names. But in terms of their personality, their characteristics, they are memorable in that sense. So the action in here, as I said, was just very well done throughout. You feel the tension. Basically in every sequence you are invested. I will say this though, the movie feels like in many ways it's trying to at least be somewhat realistic and grounded, but then you also do have some cartoonish things in here, like characters disguising themselves in masks that are ultra realistic, like a Scooby-Doo episode. And then even the final battle where they got the helicopter and the train and the tunnel does feel slightly over the top, at least when you compare it to the rest of the movie. Now this whole movie is done in a way where there wasn't really much VFX needed. It's mostly just practical effects and stunt work, and I definitely appreciate that. But of course you have the train sequence at the end, which does use some practical effects and stunt work. But it obviously is a mixture of that and CGI. But overall, I would just say throughout the movie there is some pretty good cinematography, and the costume design was solid as well. So the score in here from Danny Elfman is just fantastic throughout. It's one of the things that just escalates the film and adds to the tension. And then of course there's also just the iconic Mission Impossible theme song. That is just very catchy in its own way. So overall, after seeing this movie for the first time, I wouldn't say it's necessarily one of my favorite movies of all time, but I watched it and I thought to myself,
hey, that's pretty good.
I will also say I definitely think it's aged pretty well. In some ways, I want to say it's timeless, but at the same time, it does actually mention in the movie that the year is 1996 on some of like the computer screens and stuff like that. But I mean, I would say it's still kind of timeless in the storytelling, and there's not like a bunch of relevant stuff from then that just take over the movie. So overall, on the quality scale of 0 to 100, I'll give this movie an 81%, and I would definitely recommend it. Let me know what you think about the movie in the comment section down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.